everybody, and welcome to another edition of Inside the Pigskin. My name is Scott Morgan, Rough Motor City Badmouth. Before I introduce the crew and talk about the topics, I want to start off the show by wishing everybody in Florida and everywhere where this Hurricane Milton is happening to please be safe out there. Our hearts are with you first. What we do here is entertain you, but obviously there's a bigger picture out there, so please be safe. We are thinking about you. We are praying for you. Please be safe. With that said, let me go out there and talk about the topics. Obviously, the title says it all, New York Jets coaching drama. No, we're not talking about General Hospital, One Life to Live. We're talking about the New York Jets. Okay, so with that said, let me introduce, and they'll be occupying 4 of the topics. Miami Hurricanes will talk about. That's why I'm wearing my Cane shirt. And Vanderbilt football did something they've never done before. We'll get to that at the very end. And time permitting, we'll have parting shots. Crew right to left or right to right, whatever. Okay, Candy Ebling, welcome back to the big show.
Thanks, Scott. Great to be here.
And Jeremy Ballrick.
Good to be here.
And I'll be handing off the rock to Melfar Jr.
Hey, everybody. How's everybody going? Just to let you folks know, in Florida, Wyoming has favorable taxes as well. Just putting it out there for you.
Yeah, there you go. Mel, let's bring in Wyoming so it isn't so bad there. So he's trying to promote tourism there. I just hope they give you a bit of money for sending you some people there. My only recollection of Wyoming is I went to a truck stop that didn't want to cash a $100 bill when I had it. And I said, you got one of 2 choices. Either cash my $100 bill since I'm buying gas, or I'm taking it for free. Well, when the guy knew it was a financial situation, he pulled out 420s, and that was the end of that cowboy versus motor mouth situation. We'll turn it over to Bo Crouch. There you go. That was the story I wanted to hold out to the air.
Can't say I've ever been to Wyoming.
Me either.
And you're promoting it? Seriously?
Hey, it looks nice. The brochure looks good.
They sponsor his charity. That's really what it is. The tourism department sponsors Mel.
Right. There you go.
All right. So it's everybody's responsibility. The new requirement on all of our shows is you got to get me to say really and seriously twice during the course of the show, because that means I know that I'm out there keeping myself from saying any particular expletives in case those individuals that are religious don't come back at me and say I said something I wasn't supposed to. So really and seriously, I don't think we have to worry about expletives, but we'll introduce Bo Crouch. Welcome, Bo.
Is that just a disclaimer? Because I might drop one randomly.
No, I don't care. It doesn't make any difference there. I mean, really?
How's it going, everybody?
It's so good. Hey, and I'm just messing around. Those don't count against my quota. Oh, look at this out here. Don't worry, the quota is what it is. But at any rate, this is what we got. So with that said, let's talk about the obvious topic and the fact that Robert Saleh was fired and escorted out of the building, posted a 2-3 record this season, 20-36 since he was hired in 2021. Can you believe this? He was actually a candidate for the Detroit Lions job that went to dancampbell. How did that work out? The Dearborn, Michigan's native firing marks the first time that owner, woodyjohnson, 25-year tenure, that he has fired a coach in the middle of the season. Candy Ebling, we're going to lead off with you. What do you think about what Woody the Woodpecker Johnson, did to Robert Saleh?
Let's face it. If you've watched some of those games and you've watched the exchanges between Aaron Rodgers and Robert Saleh, and that going in for that kind of the hug, but not the hug and the shrug off, this was a lot about their relationship. Whether Woody is saying it was Aaron Rodgers' decision or not, it has a lot to do with that decision. Because let's face it, they went out and got Aaron Rodgers because they want to win championships. And they thought they could do that. Now they brought in Nathaniel Hackett because, hey, Aaron Rodgers wanted him. They brought in Alan Lazard because Aaron Rodgers wanted him. They were building the team around Aaron. So it's who Aaron wants and who Aaron needs to succeed. And obviously that cohesiveness was not there with him and Robert. And so something had to be done. And let's face it, are you going to get rid of your MVP, all-star, whether he is over his past his prime or not? You paid a lot of money. You got him. Are you going to get rid of him or are you going to get rid of the coach? The easiest decision for Woody was to get rid of the coach.
And the easiest thing for you to do right now, Candy, is go to the chat room because Jay is on a roll.
Great hiring job by the Lions. Mel, are you growing a beard? And last but not least, Candy is blaming Aaron Rodgers, except it's Aaron Rodgers.
Okay, but
But
wait,
anyway,
there's a few other ones up there. Jeremy has a
oh, we
mullet
already
with
went through
Taylor.
those.
Oh,
We
I
already
didn't
went
even
through
hear
those.
We
that.
already
Okay.
did those.
No,
right, well,
I'm not growing a beard. I just shaved. I grew it out for a little while because my sister was having a 70s birthday party. So
Oh,
I
that's
had to grow out my little pork chop sideburns and my little mustache and whatnot.
Did you
I
go?
Fu Manchu.
Here.
And so no, it's just this is my 5 o'clock shadow I shaved this morning.
Oh,
Okay. All right, Jeremy, you heard the question. Now we want to hear your answer.
okay. So I see where you brought up about the Lions. What did Robertsaleh was the interview he did with the local news there in San Francisco after he got done with his Zoom interview. He literally said he would walk barefoot back to Detroit to coach Matthew Stafford. The problem with that is Sheila in the front office, prior to any hirings, already knew Matt Stafford wanted out.
Okay.
And that's what made it so Robertsaleh was off the chart.
Okay.
So the
Good.
second interview was basically them saying sayonara. And everybody said at the time when we did hire Dan Campbell and the Jets had just hired Robertsaleh, who's going to have the better record? Well, 27-1 sounds a lot better than 20-36.
Yeah.
So I say right now, Dan Campbell has the leg up on that one, and he still has his job. So that's another one. But Robertsaleh really, the defense wasn't the issue. This is wag the dog. This is them saying, "Ooh, the head coach is the issue. Let's fire him." While Nathaniel Hackett stops running the ball and has Aaron Rodgers throw the ball 43 times in a game and gets 3 picks. Aaron Rodgers has not looked the same, and if you actually look at him on his plant foot, he's kind of hitting it with his tippy toes on that left leg, and it's because his calf is not fully rehabbed properly. It's half the size of the other leg. So he can't do what he used to do. And he hasn't got that through his thick skull because he's Aaron Rodgers.
Well, Jay summed it up best. You have the knowledge, and you certainly gave us some pretty good information about how the Stafford thing. There's a lot of things I didn't know about it. All I know is the fact that once he left, wasn't going to get the Lions job. Obviously, it didn't take long with the Jets, so we see how that turned out. All right, Bo.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm kind of with Candy here. Like a lot of this is dictated because of Rodgers. Not to say that Saleh did a great job there, right? But at the same time, he's a defensive-minded coach. That defense has been elite, no question, right? Especially when you figure they were having elite numbers with a 0 offensive production. Because before Rodgers gets there, who did he have? He had Wilson. Okay, that's a dumpster fire. He had Boyle for a minute. He had the last stages of Darnold. I mean, like he didn't have anybody.
Yeah.
Like he didn't have anybody to play quarterback, right? But as a defensive coach, his defensive unit was no joke. It was one of the best in the league. I don't hate Rodgers. It just, at the end of the day, you're firing a head coach that the part of the play that he dictates was still doing extraordinarily well. And the side of the ball that isn't producing, you don't fire the OC because it's Rodgers' buddy. So it's not like you have to have a conspiracy theory tinfoil hat to come to the conclusion that this has a lot more to do with the fact that Saleh and Rodgers don't have a great relationship than it does that they need to make a change at coach. Plus, it just seems premature to be 5 weeks in, 1 game out of the division. You're 2-3. Like it's not like you started 0-5. So it just seemed premature and more just directed at making Rodgers happy than anything else.
Well, the fact of the matter is he was escorted out of the building. My goodness.
That is pretty wild.
Escorted out of the building. Give me a break. Let the guy go out with a little dignity. But boy, Woody Johnson wasn't going to do that. Hey, they lost in London. He didn't appease his people up in London that saw the game to an ex-quarterback named Sam Darnold. Okay, so I'm not going to get into a lot of that. I'm going to save a little bit for Mel. What's your take on this interesting, toxic, whatever you want to call it, situation?
I think the fact that he's escorted out of the building is probably blown out of proportion. I mean, they probably escort a lot of people out of the building. I'm sure he didn't leave out of there like Jerry Maguire saying, "I'm going to take this little fish with me." You know, I'm sure he didn't leave out like that. I mean, he's a professional. He's been in this business for a long time. I'm sure they just escorted him out for security reasons. You know, make sure he gave up all his keys and whatever else and left everything there that didn't belong to him. I hate it for him, to be honest with you. And I hate when pundits talk, when I listen to pundits and they're always talking about somebody losing their job. You know, I don't think they would want somebody to come on air and say you should lose your job because you do a very poor job of doing what you do. You know, in my opinion, you do a very poor job. Where, you know, in a lot of pundits' opinion, yeah, the Jets job, and it's a tough job. It's a dysfunctional franchise, and it's been that way for a while. And what I hate about it is for him, and you know, it happens to a lot of minority coaches, is they never have an opportunity to get all the pieces put together to really see how they can coach. I mean, Todd Bowles was there. You know, he struggled, even though the defense was playing well. Sam Darnold, for whatever reason, wasn't playing very well for him while he was there. I think that's at the time, and I'm not quite certain, but I think that Geno Smith may have still been there at that particular time, and there was some issue. He wasn't there, but
he was in New York at that time. The other New York.
Okay, so they just don't get an opportunity. It takes time, and I guess when you have a franchise like Washington, it seems like they're having this overnight success. As an owner, you look at it. Well, why isn't my team having the same type of success? Well, I mean, you got to look. There's more to look at than just the coach. You have to look at the players, the guy who's bringing in the players, your scouting department. They've missed on quarterbacks. They missed on the quarterback, that they drafted very, very high. I want to say second overall. They missed. When you miss like that, it sets your franchise back a number of years. Now you're bringing in an aging quarterback to try to save your franchise. And he's, let's be honest, he's a little quirky. He's different. He's only 5 years younger than Saleh. And so he doesn't have the respect for him that's necessary. And if the other players see that he doesn't respect him, then the players aren't going to respect him. So he was put in a tough situation when they brought Aaron Rodgers there. I'm sure it's something that he felt that he could manage, but it got out of control with Aaron wanting to go see the pyramids in Egypt and miss minicamp, and then with the whole cadence thing, where Aaron said it wasn't a problem, Robert Saleh said it was a problem. So you could see there was a dynamic there that wasn't very good, and it wasn't healthy, and it wasn't going to be conducive to them playing winning football. So something had to be done. And unfortunately, it had to be the coach. And I hope he gets another opportunity somewhere down the road, because I do believe he's a good coach. I do believe he is there goes my thing again. Can you guys still hear me?
Oh, yeah.
I'll hear you.
Yeah, there goes my camera again. I do believe, mouth open again. Look at that. I do believe that he is a good leader of men, and he should get another opportunity, and I hope he gets another opportunity.
Well, let's go. I'm sorry. Let's go a couple things. Number one, from out here, even Adam Gates didn't get escorted out of the building, and he was public enemy number one up there. Then again, he ain't gotten a job since either. Hold on, Jeremy. Okay, let me finish so I don't lose train of my thought. Okay. So the main thing is Adam Gates, it's a dysfunctional job, but Todd Bowles did get another job when he left. So, the fact is, I do think Robert Saleh will get another job. I think he goes as a defensive coordinator a little bit first, and then he'll be a little bit more selective of his next opportunity. That's what I have to say. He's a darn good coach. He is. We all saw what kind of a defensive coach that he is. And like Mel said, it was a dysfunctional situation. All right, Jeremy, go ahead. I don't want to take away your thunder.
No,
probably fresh.
Here's the other thing. The owner did not consult the GM, the assistant coaches, or the players. He decided on his own to fire Robert Saleh, which means the only player that could have said something to get him fired is 100% Karen Rodgers with a problem with management.
Well,
There
here's the
is-
thing. Well,
there
here's
is
the thing.
one- Go ahead,
Go
Scott.
ahead. All right. Number one, Aaron brought drama to Green Bay. How did that work out? Now he brought it to Broadway Aaron over in New York. Okay. So wherever it goes, Aaron goes, drama goes. All right, Candy.
So it is coming out that Robert Saleh did relieve Nathaniel Hackett of the play calling duties, and that came out right before he was fired. So knowing that Nathaniel Hackett has such a good relationship with Aaron Rodgers, and then for this to happen, the timing, it'll be interesting as more details come out, but to me, it points heavily to Aaron Rodgers. Whether Woody is going to come out and say that it was officially Aaron Rodgers came to him or anything, he doesn't have to. He knows how big of a relationship Aaron had with Woody. And Jay, before you say anything, I am a Green Bay Packers fan, and everybody on this panel knows that. I liked Aaron Rodgers. I like him as a quarterback. I don't like all the drama he brings with him, and he brought drama. He had it in Green Bay, and he left and took it to the Jets, and they didn't need it. Nobody needs that kind of drama.
Well, let's not lose sight of the underlying factor here that gets buried in all of this. This is the first coach that Woody Johnson has fired in his 25-year tenure there. So even that fact alone, if you don't remember anything else, at least remember that. Why is Saleh the first coach, okay, to me, that he has let go in the middle of the year? I'm not going to get into other coaches that were let go. I know Lou Holtz was on a list back in the 70s, but has nothing to do with Woody Johnson. Let's go back to the chat room. I know Jay's on a roll. I might as well just appoint him as the official sixth man. After all, you have a sixth man in basketball. Why not have one on there? But Jay's great stuff.
Yep.
So the thing that to Mel's point is I do think he will get another shot. I feel like if you are a head coach, especially as a first-time head coach, if you are either with the Jets or the Browns, I feel like you get a mulligan, right? Like it should be more of an internship. It doesn't go towards your actual record. It's sort of that AAA style for baseball. Like, it counts, but kind of not really until you get to the big leagues. I feel like that's those organizations where they just constantly shoot themselves in the foot. The odds of you actually having success in those locations is so low that, I mean, even if you come out kind of bad, you should still be okay, right? I mean, you look at Belichick. I think he did okay after he went to one of those organizations.
Well, I know what Jeremy's going to say, and if he doesn't, I will. Go ahead, Jeremy. I'll give you first crack at it.
I can name 3 teams that can benefit from what Robert Saleh coached the Jets up the best at. What were they the worst at before Robert Saleh got there? Tackling. They have become one of the best tackling teams in the NFL. So there are 3 teams right now that I can say have major losses on their record due to bad tackling. One team is a 1-loss team, one is a 2-loss team, and one has 4 losses. The 1-loss team is the Detroit Lions. They have tackling issues. The 2-loss team is the Green Bay Packers. They have tackling issues. The 4-loss team, and it isn't the Bengals, it's the one that nobody wants to go to. It's the Panthers. They can't tackle a wet cloth.
All right. Well, I guess I was wrong about Jeremy because I was going to say something that didn't match. So now I can do it. Okay. They don't get recycled when they're with Detroit Lions because the Lions are patient. Unless you're an interim guy named Dick Geron, just so you know. So fact of the matter is that they're patient. They give you 3 to 5 years. They don't run you out of town as prematurely as some of these other stops. But usually the second time is better. I mean, if you look at all the championships by history, which we're not going to do tonight, because we certainly have a lot more to talk about, the reality of the situation is this, okay? Robert Saleh will appear again. Where will he go? I don't know. We'll have it for future shows. All right. I have one thing I want to address since Bo got to it earlier. We'll address it now. Katie, I know you're chomping a bit. Is there anything else you want to add before I move on?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. So let's talk about Robert Saleh's quarterback. Aaron Rodgers, 3-3. Zach Wilson, 13-21. Joe Flacco, 1-6. Mike White, 2-6. Trevorsiemian, 2-3. Timboyle, 0-3. The only one they don't have on there is Nathan Peterman. My goodness, why don't put him on there? No,
They
he's
were
not.
smart enough not to start him.
Right. Well, but the bottom line is you got these 6 guys. If you think that Robert Saleh is going to win with this group, I mean, Zach Wilson, I still think could be salvaged. I really do. I don't know why. I have a gut feeling we're not going to talk about that tonight anyways. But when you look at this group here, they look like what you see over at the circuit. It's a bunch of clowns. So Robert Saleh is literally, really looking at a bunch of clowns. There's my true relief, by the way. Now we got to get to the seriously, and we'll do that all later in the show. But really, that's 3. Where you're looking at this group, and you're expecting this guy to win with that. You lost Rodgers all last year, and Zach Wilson was given another opportunity, and he unfortunately didn't take full advantage of it. And he's out in Denver for now. Who knows where he'll wind up by the end of the year? So this is an interesting group, and I don't blame Robert Saleh at all because these are the guys that he had to work with over the last few years. All right. You know what, Bo? Since you got me going on it, you can pick it up. What do you want to add to that?
No, I mean, it just, because I alluded to it earlier, you're not going to win in that scenario. Like you're talking about guys that haven't been able to keep jobs as backups.
Right.
I mean, like, I don't know how much success you really think this guy is going to have. Now, I don't want to make excuses for him because, at the end of the day, you got the roster you got. And you have to win. And if you don't, you get fired. That's the NFL. But at the same time, because of what he was given and what he does well, his team did do well. I think he does get another shot. To Jay's question here, though, how much control does a coach have? That really depends on ownership. Because if ownership is what created the scenario where you bring this guy in, then yeah, you end up getting overridden, potentially lose your job, if that's the way you think this went down. Now, if it was something that a coach wanted and the ownership or GM, supported that, but it wasn't necessarily their guy, they have a lot more latitude to bench the guy. If it's the GM's guy, they're gonna be like, no, this guy has to work or I'm going to get fired. So yeah, in this scenario, Saleh wouldn't have had any say in that scenario.
Yeah, well, he didn't have a prayer with his group either, but that's beside the point. Mel, what are your thoughts about it?
You're
muted. Oh, it might actually just be off.
Well,
no, I can't hear you, Mel.
Nope.
Well, one of these days I'll learn to take up lip reading, but tonight's a little short notice for me. So when Mel gets his juice back, then I'll refer back to him. All right, Jeremy, hang on, Mel. We'll wait for you to get it back. Feel free to interrupt me when I can hear you. But I don't know sign language. Jay, you got me there. Okay, Jeremy, what are your thoughts about this group of quarterbacks?
The group that Saleh had?
Yeah, the 6 that I left. I don't want to talk about it.
From regurgitated dog water to dog crap other than Rodgers.
Okay.
But that's what you had there. And the fact that they aren't calling a conducive game that fits Rodgers' game, it doesn't help him. He needs a solid run game, especially at his age, with his legs being in the condition they're in. A solid run game would help that quarterback be better. We have talked about this and how people's game plans hasn't fit the style quarterback they have. At this point, Aaron Rodgers doesn't have that elite arm talent. What he does have is an elite QB mind. You can see he's trying to do all that stuff. And they do have good running backs, but they only ran him for a total of 13 times for 36 yards.
So, Jeremy, the thing that's interesting is because Hackett's his guy, right? It makes you wonder how much of this is actually Hackett and how much of it is Aaron's just calling this stuff at the line.
Oh, I don't doubt it at all. Because I think I heard at least 13 times him give the kill order at the line. So were those 13 play calls runs and he saw something in the defense because he's using that IBM brain of his with his body by Mattel?
Okay. Well, we got Mel back anyways. All right, Mel,
So
you got this group of quarterbacks. Okay.
yeah, so
Do you blame Saleh on it, this group, or what's your take on it?
when he took the job, and I know as a young guy, he wanted the job, and sometimes all jobs aren't good jobs, and sometimes you have to be a little bit more selective, particularly when it's your first job. You have to be selective about where it is that you go because it can have a lasting effect on your future. And when you take a job with a dysfunctional organization like the Jets, and you come in knowing you really don't have a quarterback there, because when he took the job, he didn't have a quarterback, but he was a part of that management that drafted Zachwilson #2. Now, how much say he had in that, I don't know, but obviously he was on board with drafting him, I believe, and that didn't pan out. So again, that sets the franchise back, makes your job very difficult. I mean, if you can't get that position right, nothing else is gonna go for you. Now, there's been teams that haven't really played lights out at that position, like the Baltimore Ravens. When they won, they didn't play lights out that position, although Flacco played well in the postseason. Well, not Flacco, Dilfer. Dilfer, he didn't play lights out, but he wasn't losing games for that team. Zach Wilson wasn't, he for whatever reason, he just didn't pan out. He was a kind of a combine guy, and those numbers look good, and they drafted him. They reached for him, really. And so when you bring in Aaron Rodgers, a guy like him, he's kind of like, and I look at him like, what was it? The Replacements with Eddie Martell and Gene Hackman.
Yes.
No, Eddie Martell, the coach. When he told him, hey, I call the plays, and Martell goes, hey, that's not how I play. The quarterback, like Aaron Rodgers, one of those interceptions looked like he threw it up there for grabs for real to me. Like he threw the interception on purpose, like, hey, that's not how I play. And he was just letting Robert
Well, I know that didn't come from local TV endorsing the Hurricanes, that's for sure. But
I feel like it's supposed to have the colored bars on the screen right now.
Yeah, I feel like it should too. But see, we have all these interesting things called a fancy microphone, but the object of the game is let's simply get the words out with a unfancy computer. Just kidding, okay? Yeah, but there he goes. Here he comes. There he goes. All right, Candy. When Mel gets back on, he can continue his thoughts. Nothing against the old fancy microphone. I really don't care. All I have is just a headset and a voice that to me is a little bit raspy. Go ahead, Candy.
Okay, so as a head coach, you are responsible for hiring your coordinators, your coaches, your staff. You have to make the right hires for the team that you're coaching, and you have to remember that. So if you're going to draft a young quarterback, you need to hire a coach that is good at developing a young quarterback. So you draft Zach Wilson. Yes, Bo, you're going to respond?
No. Yeah. So only because of what you just said. So do you actually think that Hackett was Saleh's hire?
No, but I'm saying before that, when they had Zach Wilson, when they went and drafted Zach, to develop Zach. And, we've seen some coaches are really good at developing quarterbacks and some coaches aren't. And with Robert being such an defensive minded, coach, did he have the right person to help Zach Wilson or not? Now, the whole Aaron Rodgers, obviously, we all know he wanted Nathaniel Hackett. Part of my thinking, or part of the problem I have with them firing him so quickly, is in today's day and age, and I don't care who you are, and maybe except for like Brady, when you have a new quarterback to the system, and granted, Aaron isn't that new. He played all of a couple of plays last year, but with the staff that he has, or the receivers that he has, Aaron has never been one to start real strong in the beginning of the year, especially when you don't take practice, when you don't start all of the games in the beginning, like the preseason, when you don't do that, he's always started off slow. That's been one of my main gripes, is that yes, he's so good and he's MVP. Oh, he doesn't need to play the preseason. Well, no, he does, especially if you have new players in the system to kind of gel with them, to know where they're going to be, to know how quickly when someone's defending them, how quickly they can break away, or if they can, or if they can't, if they're going to break right when, and if they're going to. So that's been one of my gripes, is that they don't play enough preseason, and it's getting less and less with it only being how many games, because it's a how many game season, that sometimes there's got to be a little more latitude, and there's not, because NFL, they want results and they want them now.
The only thing I'm going to say is I'm glad Travis Holmes isn't on this broadcast, and I'll tell you why. Because I was at the game where, with all due respect, Brigham Young went out there and made Central Florida look like a paper shredder, and Zachwilson is the one that did it and convinced me he was a good quarterback. I had a guy named Jake Hatch from BYU on the show, and we even had a show with him talking about Zachwilson. So, it is.
The only question I have there, and again, only because Zachwilson is an interesting player, is I don't know if your offensive coordinator or your QB coach could have done a lot for the kid, because maturity wise, he just wasn't there coming in, because in every loss, he's blaming everyone except himself. Right. So that's a scenario. I don't care how good the coaching is. If you have a player that isn't there to hear it, I don't know if it would have made any difference. Like, had he gone somewhere else, I don't know if he'd have been a different guy. I mean, it reminds me a lot of Johnny Football, right? Like, you could be the best QB coach on the planet. It was not going to matter.
All right. We have a guy that really likes my really. So, Jay, because he's requesting it, really? Yes, Mel was back, by the way. All right, Mel, let's see if we can go out there and finally get the quarterback situation. You know the six guys. Let's see if the third time is a charm. And I hope that makes you feel really good. 20-36. So I like it when Jay messes with me about the really, but we're having fun with it, so at least it's not bad. Okay, let's see if you can really get through the six, Mel. And now we can't hear him.
Can't hear you now.
Now you see him, but now you don't hear him. My goodness. Seriously.
Wow, that's the best take I've ever heard, Mel.
Just smoke signals. Let's go.
And now, you know what I feel like? We have a Charlie Chaplin movie for all of you that remember. This is becoming Mel's silent movie. Anybody on this panel remember Charlie Chaplin? Really?
Yes.
Do you remember? Yeah.
Seriously, I do.
Jay, that was actually our point. Is it's hard to win games when you're not given quarterbacks that are competent, because the defense he built was very good. So his record is terrible, but you're talking about guys that aren't even third stringers in a lot of cases. So, I mean, Timboyle, one of his guys that did not perform well. We watched him as a third stringer with Miami, to which he is going to ultimately not be on this roster because they picked up Huntley. They're still going to have Skylar Thompson. Timboyle can't even stay in the league. So, like, I don't know what you're expecting him to be able to do. You could be the best coach in the world, and if the talent just isn't quite there, it's still an L.
I have my nickname for Timboyle while he was with the Lions.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
Tuberculosis of the 12th strain, because he was number 12 while he was here.
How many people are going to remember tuberculosis as a nickname? Seriously?
TB12 is the acronym.
All right, whatever. All right, well, Mel, you're in my heart, you're in my mind, and we'll see if you're back on the show. All right. With that said, okay, I will go to a station break in a moment, see if Mel will be on his fourth live. Remember, Mel, even Morris had 9. We'll see if you can make it with your fourth. But I do want to put this footnote in there. No team has fired its head coach. in a season and has gone on to make the playoffs since the merger. So with that said, we're going to turn it over to Candy for a station break, and then I'll mention some possible candidates. Mel's back. Let's see if he's on his 4th reincarnation. You back, Mel?
I don't know. I think the Russians have hacked into my equipment.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, don't blame them.
Maybe it was Robert Saleh.
Yeah, maybe.
No, it wasn't Robert Saleh because I'm on his side. I
Wait,
think
I
I'm
got
being
the
hacked.
static coming in the background at the hello comrade.
Hey, Mel, I got to tell you, though, you are making it interesting in a lot of ways because we're having fun with all this. Now, Jay says Mel's voice seems deeper now. Yeah, well, number one,
So,
it doesn't hurt that you can hear him, so that anything can be deeper than nothing.
so
So, all right.
Jay asked who my coach was at Sacramento. It was Kay Stevens. And
Nice.
interesting thing about that is, I was a running back, and when I went to Sacramento, they actually moved me to tight end, and because they wanted to put the best 11 players on the field, and that was actually the first time in my life I was ever voted captain of the team.
Well, yeah, we have a common friend that obviously was a general manager, and he used to appear on a lot of our shows early, named Michael Keller. So I remember that as well. So, all right, Mel, I'll give you one more shot at it, and hopefully you don't play. If you don't get it right this time, I'm going to rename you Mel Charlie Chaplin. Okay.
I don't recall all the coaches. I mean, all the quarterbacks that were there. I just know that none of them were very good. And I'm not going to sit there and say the guys stink or anything like that. It's hard to play that position in the NFL. They just weren't very good at doing the job that they were asked to do. That's a very, very difficult position to play at any level. And they just weren't, the people that he had just weren't the best at doing that. So that makes his job that more difficult. He's really a defensive guy. It was really important for him to get somebody who could really take a hold of the offense. And they had somebody there, and they made him get rid of him last year. And then they stuck him with Hackett, who wasn't his guy. So I don't know what kind of relationship he has with Nathaniel Hackett. But obviously there wasn't much of a relationship because he never went in there and told the guy, say, hey, look, man, we need to run the football. We got to run the football 30, 35 times a game. That would make a big difference. That would take a lot of pressure off of Aaron Rodgers. Those guys were just teeing off on Aaron back there. I know he doesn't like motions and stuff like that. They were saying on the telecast, there's a method to the madness. Now he has to get accustomed to playing. You might have to understand that, hey, this is going to be a little bit different. The NFL has evolved since your first year. This is year 20 for you. Okay. The NFL has evolved in the last 20 years. We need to do this stuff here so we can figure out what the heck is going on the other side of the ball, so we can try to make things simpler for you when we do snap the ball. So, I mean, there's just conversations that probably needed to be had that just weren't had. And maybe because, Robert may have been intimidated by him. I don't know. Understood that he had the owner's ear, understood that the owner said that, he felt that they did a very poor job after the season last year as far as, staffing that position, the quarterback position. He wasn't very happy with the options that they had at that position behind Aaron Rodgers when Aaron Rodgers got hurt. So there's a lot of things in there that I think there's a lot of dynamics at work there. And I think they had to, like I said, I think they had to make a decision because there was a lot of tension in the air and they needed to release some of that tension and allow these guys to just go out there and play football. So hopefully they got a guy in there that everybody respects and they can go out there and play football. I doubt it's going to happen because it's a dysfunctional franchise. Aaron is a little quirky. He's a little dysfunctional as well. So we'll see.
Okay, well, let me reiterate one thing. Candy's going to go to a station break, and then I'm going to answer a quick question. Obviously, as I just reiterated, no team has fired a head coach in a season and gone on to make the playoffs since the merger. We'll see what it plays out here. Now, Joseph Osteen asked a great question. Do you think Saleh is going to be the Lions defensive coordinator next year? I know, Jeremy, you'll want to answer it, but let me just get my thought on it first. If Aaron Glenn gets a head coaching job first, there's an opening as defensive coordinator. Is it possible that they could hire him? You never know, but I can guarantee you Matthew Stafford isn't walking in the building. You better settle for Jared Goff. Jeremy, since you're there, what do you think of Robert Saleh as a future defensive coordinator?
If they're thinking of him as a future defensive coordinator, they may want to bring him in now as some type of coaching assistant on defense to let him get familiar with the players,
right?
See how things are ran here, see how Dan Campbell does things, see if he even fits with Dan Campbell. Because I think they're polar opposite personalities. Saleh seems to be more of a dictator, totalitarian type of guy, whereas Dan Campbell seems to be that real fun-loving player first, but he knows how to be a hard Alex. I had to stop myself there for a minute.
Right.
When he needs to be.
I would say that Robert Saleh would have a better shot of being a defensive coordinator for the Green Bay Packers, because he is actually best friends with Matt LaFleur. They actually were best men at each other's weddings, so he was really good friends with him. So you could see him on the Green Bay sideline, and I wouldn't mind that. Knowing how good
he had LaFleur's brother as his offensive coordinator too. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot. It makes a lot of sense. I'm sure he's going to take a minute here. I'm sure he'll get right back into coaching, and I think he deserves that opportunity. I don't know who the defensive coordinator is there right now at Green Bay.
Jeff Hanley, Boston College head coach last year.
Yeah, right. I remember that. Okay.
The other place that you potentially see him land is with the Eagles, because Fangio isn't getting it done. That defense actually looks worse than it did last year. And they brought him in because the guy that was there was a disciple of his. So they were just thinking, instead of having the copy, we'll get the real thing. And the defense hasn't looked any better. So
he could get the head coaching job there. That guy might not survive the year.
I mean, you're not wrong.
But at the same time, we're forgetting about one team that probably won't have their defensive coordinator next year. And that's Minnesota Vikings. They could bring him in as an assistant to Flores now.
True.
Also, because more than likely Brian Flores is the head coach next year.
Do you really think that? Really, that's interesting. We won't get into that tonight.
That's real possible. And I do want to touch on Jay's thing there. Do we think that a head coach can't win over a GM? They absolutely can. It depends on the structure of that organization. Probably one of the best examples of when this did work out is here in Seattle. When they drafted Wilson, he was a 3rd round pick, right? They just paid $17 million for a quarterback that never took a snap because they saw something better in preseason than what they paid for. And so if the organization is put together correctly, then yeah, you want the best player on the field.
Yeah,
not all organizations are that way.
Yeah, I'm still trying to find out when the Jets general manager is going to be accountable for this cotton picking mess. That's all I can say.
Oh, he's next. He's next.
Yeah, he is. But obviously Saleh was first. All right. With that said, we don't usually wait this long for a station break, but you know what? We're on a roll. I knew that this topic was going to have a lot of time, and there's one other thing I want to get to. So, Candy, you have a station break, and I get a nice tea break. Go ahead.
Okay, the South Florida Tribune published a book last November called Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by our host, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. It is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Apple, and Google Books. There is also a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where you can also get a link to our merchandise store. So you need a new baseball cap or sweatshirt or sweatpants, go check it out. Go buy some merchandise. Also check out all of the great content we have on our website. Scott writes, Jeremy writes, I take pictures. Go check out the website. If you like to listen to podcasts, we are available wherever you get your podcast. We have a website, I said, www.southfloridatribune.com. If you want to email us, if you want to sponsor or advertise on the show, call Scott, 954-304-4941. Twitter is @TribuneSouth. Back to you, Scott.
Well done, Candy. All right, one other thing I want to get to, and yes, we do have other things to talk about the New York Jets. I feel really weird. I feel like I'm like Mike Greenberg on Get Up? Talk about his team? Seriously? Really? Seriously? Really? I love those words. They're great. Too expensive to patent, though. All right, or what is it? Patent, is that what I did before, Candy? I don't know what I did. But anyway, no. I think it was trademark. All right, whatever. But anyways, let's talk about the top head coaching candidates for the dysfunctional New York Jets coaching drama. Bill Belichick, I'll give you my opinions. We'll just make them straightforward. Jeremy, I know. I do know how to read sign language, okay? Well, I don't know how to go uno, dos, tres, and then 4 or 5 with Spanish. One at a time, okay, Jeremy? There you go, buddy. Don't worry, you're never at a loss, and I promise you, your opinion will be heard. Bill Belichick, no chance. period. Okay. Mike Vrabel, maybe, because after all, I think he does deserve another chance, but he better think this one through. Ben Johnson, no chance he's going there. Okay. Bobby Slowick of the offensive coordinator. Okay. For the Houston Texans, I could possibly see that. So, let me just repeat everybody's role right now. Mike Vrabel is an assistant with the Browns. Ben Johnson, we all know, is an offensive coordinator for Detroit Lions, and Slowick is an offensive coordinator for Houston. And of course, now they have Jeff Ulbrich, the defensive coordinator, now the interim guy, with a chance to audition for the job 12 games ago. Probably, I guess Woody Johnson's going to give somebody an audition. 12 games is a pretty good opportunity, although Dan Campbell auditioned for the Miami Dolphins job. And you know what? He didn't get it. Boy, I wonder if the Dolphins are eating crow now because of it. All right, Jeremy, you know what? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bo.
Well, so I was just going to sort of ask this question of everybody. If you're going to be a first-time head coach, do you want that Jets job?
Right.
Because you're looking at an organization that routinely kind of hurts themselves. They've had, 5 head coaches in the last 10, 11 years. The only one that's had more is the Panthers, because they've managed to have 6 and 3, which is impressive in its own way. But, I mean, do you want any of those jobs as a first-time head coach? Because, like we talked about earlier, where you go first matters, right? Because it can stifle your ability to get another job.
Oh, no question about it. Absolutely. But now that you brought that up, you get to go ahead and talk about the 5 particulars. I'll read them off again. Bill Belichick would be dumb enough to take that job. Hey, I think he's having a good time with his 23-year-old girlfriend, 24-year-old. I don't know what it is, but man, life's got to be good for Belichick right now. But so do you think he would want that job? He turned it down years ago. Okay.
No
What
chance.
about Mike Vrabel?
No.
You don't think so? Okay. Ben Johnson?
So Ben Johnson might. And honestly, the Jets should entertain an offensive-minded head coach.
Okay.
Because it's the one thing they don't do well.
Okay. Fair enough. What about Bobby Slowick, another offensive coordinator for the Texans?
Probably not. So the thing that helps Ben Johnson is the fact that he's had the amount of success that he's had with the Lions, right? So even if it doesn't go well, which, let's be honest, it probably won't, he has enough resume prior to that he'll at least stay in the league.
Right. Okay. Fair. All right. Finally, Jeff Ulbrich, the defensive coordinator, the new interim guy.
Probably not. He probably unless somehow they are the unicorn and they make the playoffs, he probably doesn't actually get a real shot at it.
Okay. All right. Now we'll turn it over to Jeremy. What do you think, pal?
I don't think Ben Johnson goes anywhere unless they complete their goal. And the goal that was set.
Jeremy, what I'm going to do, just to make sure that we go in the same order and I don't get thrown off, okay, is we're going to go in the order that I started. Bill Belichick, yes or no? And give me a
Not a chance. He's told him hell no on like 3 different occasions since the last time he worked there.
Fair enough. I like that answer. Mike Vrabel.
I don't think he'll take that job. He does not want to go to another dysfunctional franchise. He'll probably want to go to one with more stability.
Excellent. I like that. Ben Johnson. Now you can get to Ben.
Ben Johnson, unless the Lions win the Super Bowl, he's not going anywhere. He's already said that. He turned down stupid money from Washington to stay in Detroit.
Okay. Bobby Slowick.
That's an outside shot. And I think that's their best shot, is to either go with the first-time coach or somebody out of college coming to the NFL. And they should think offensive-minded to fix the offense.
And finally, Jeff Ulbrich, the interim guy.
He has a shot if they can go 500 the rest of the way, but I don't see it.
Okay, fair enough. All right, I'm going to go to Candy this time.
So who's the first one? Belichick? No way. He's not going to go to a dysfunctional franchise like that. No.
Mike Vrabel.
No, because again, there's too many injuries. There's too many. I don't see him excelling in that role. So why would you take it? And why would you want to, knowing the past history?
Okay. Ben Johnson.
No, because I think he interviewed for better jobs this last season and didn't take them. So why would he take this one?
Okay, that's a good answer. Bobbyslowick.
No.
Okay, finally, Jeff Ulbrich. Does he have a chance to get the job?
I mean, I think he has a chance. I think it's going to really come down to how how well they perform these next couple of weeks. I don't think I know he has till the end of the year, but I think they're going to formulate an opinion in the middle slate of these games. I guess he probably has the best chance, but you never know.
Fair enough. Okay. So you got all five. I mentioned Ulbrich, right? Correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right, now it's off to Mel.
Yeah, I don't think that Belichick take the job. I mean, he turned it down before, so I don't think that that's a possibility. Who was number 2?
Mikevrabel. I'll list them.
No.
Okay. Ben Johnson.
No.
Okay. Bobbyslowick.
He might. It's his first opportunity. He doesn't know better than to turn the job down. Hopefully somebody would educate him and tell him that's probably not the best situation for you to go into being your first job, because you have an aging quarterback there that wants to do things his way. So, I mean, probably wouldn't be the best scenario for him, but I'm sure he'd fight to get that job.
Okay. The last one is Jeff Ulbrich.
I mean, he has as good a chance as anybody of keeping the job. He's somebody that is there. He's in the building. I think he's been there for a little while. Right. He knows the inner workings of the management of that inner sanctum, so to speak. So, he might be the guy that's left standing. I mean, there may not be any takers for that job, as hard as it may sound to believe. There may not be any takers for that job, and he might be what's left.
I think the one intangible factor that you have with these candidates, let alone any other ones, is will the Jets acquire Devanteadams to make it a more attractive job? And Rodgers finally gets his act together, finds a top receiver that he's able to. We obviously know that Aaron is the general manager. Okay, so if he's going to be the general manager, you better swing this trade, because you need Devanteadams worse than you can imagine. And the Jets have been known to overpay to get guys. So I think everybody's points are really on target and are more or less what I expected them to be. But Devanteadams deal, I think, is going to get done within the next week or 2 weeks for sure. Anybody else want to add to that before we talk college? Go ahead, Jeremy.
There is something that we're all forgetting about. Remember that the GM told Hassan Reddick's agent, we got a deal ready for you if you accept the trade and come over from Philly with his no trade clause. Guess who said he's got to show me he's worth it before we pay him the money? Robertsaleh. That might be one of the deciding factors on why they got rid of him too, and that's why they didn't consult with the GM.
Why would he say that? It's not his money. Why would he say that?
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Because he's that type of guy. He wants you to prove it in his system, and Hassan Reddick already had that promise.
Where are you getting your inside information from, Jeremy? I mean, I'm surprised you didn't take Adrian Wojnarowski's job.
That talk about the GM stuff came out as soon as the trade was made. And Hassan Reddick said, the coaches want me to prove myself. I just won't play. That was his words.
Well, Jeremy, let me just put one thing here. I do want to get on to college football. Okay. Let's face reality. We all know that Robert Saleh is from Dearborn, Michigan. Anybody that knows about Dearborn, it's a suburb of Detroit. And we all know that Detroit is known for being a blue-collar town. So if there's any substance to that comment, it's the fact that Robert Saleh was brought up in a blue-collar town. Now, your sources or speculation, I don't know. I'll slap a TBD on that, but I'll give you the puncher's chance on what you said, if for no other reason that it's a blue-collar town, and I'm going to leave it at that, because now I am going on to college football. Why am I wearing this shirt? Because I'm a Miami Hurricane, and I cover the team, so there you go. So the Miami Hurricanes made an improbable comeback over Cal on Saturday night. Cam Ward, 35 of 53, 437 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also rushed for a touchdown. And I brought it up time and time again. Okay. that Xavierrestrepo 7 of 63, no touchdowns. And you know what? Let's go back to Jay. This guy's got something pretty good. Okay, your team got lucky. Sometimes, Jay, it's better to be lucky than good, and that's all I'll say. But I'm not lucky about the fact that Candy's going to run a clip of how important it is to have a wide receiver and a quarterback on the same page, which is exactly the chemistry that you have between Cam Ward and Xavierrestrepo. And by the way, you're going to see him play on Sunday. Candy running. Hey, Cam, I know the first 3 games you and Xavierrestrepo have been good friends. You've connected on touchdowns every game. So how well is your chemistry developing with Xavierrestrepo? You guys seem to hit the end zone once a game at least.
It's real good, especially where we started from in the spring. Even through fall camp, me and him had some bad days together, just not seeing the field. But we honed in on that, and every time we watch tape, he's always there. He's the first one there. Whether we watch it 2 times a day or 3 times a day. So, you know, his schedule is hard, but he always finds time to do it. And I think that's why it's showing off for him on the field. And, you know, he just knows, like, the spaces where we need to get to, whether it's man, whether it's zone. Like the one we ran today, it was zone, and he just dropped stuff. We worked out in practice every day. So I think all the practice stuff paying off, and that's why he's doing so good.
All right, so let me preface what happens here. In back-to-back weeks, the Miami Hurricanes win games in the waning minutes, okay? And the fact of the matter is that this is a team that has now moved to number 6 in the country. So the reality of the situation is you have a situation with Cam Ward where we're talking about future Heisman Trophy. He don't even care about that trophy right now. He's more concerned about knowing that his decision to transfer to Miami, okay, turned out to be a good one because he has a chance to win a national championship. And if you win a national championship here in Miami, if you've ever looked at that Ring of Honor, you got some pretty good players on there. Now, I will say this. You know, there was so much football going on Saturday that Katie and I elected to go ahead and record it. We watch it on Sunday instead. So those first 3 quarters were laughable, sleepable. So what we ended up doing is, as soon as we woke up and wanted to last the 4th quarter, and we did it, oh my goodness, what we saw from that dynamic duo, as well as some of the other players that are on there. It was a comeback for the ages. It really was. But this Miami team is good. They really are. They're on a bye week this week. So I guarantee they won't win. They won't lose, but they might win because some of their guys are going to get rested. So, Jeremy, I don't know if you had an opportunity to go ahead. In fact, Jay, we're going to get to Alabama in a moment, so hang in there with me. Okay, I have some really interesting stuff on that. Jeremy, any thoughts about the Miami-California game? And mind you, this game was so important to ESPN that they took game day there for the first time ever at California.
Well, that's because it's California's first time in the ACC, and here it is, an ACC opponent going out there to face off against them. So let's see what happens. And lo and behold, the East teams going west do better than the West teams going east. Who'd have known?
Right. Good point. I like it. This one, you know what I like about this point, Jeremy? This was short and sweet. You fall into the KISS, keep it simple, stupid, or keep it simple, whatever. That was good. I like that take, Jeremy. All right, Bo.
Yeah, sadly, I wasn't even around on Saturday, so I actually missed all of the NCAA action. So I don't even have a lot to add to it. I didn't get to see the game.
That's okay. You'll have opportunities to watch the Canes at some point later on when they make the college football playoff, but that's okay. What about you, Mel? You're a big college football guy.
Yeah, I actually turned the TV off. I thought that Miami was going to lose, to be honest with you. I can't remember about what time it was. I couldn't believe when I woke up in the morning, I said, man, Miami came back and actually won that game. I had to go back and look at the highlights and see what happened. Because I really thought I thought they lost that game, to be honest with you. Not that they were going to lose. I thought they lost. When I cut the TV off, in my mind, there was no chance for them to get back into that game. But it was a good game. I mean, Cal jumped on them early. I think they got a 25-point lead had a 25-point lead at one time. I didn't think Miami was going to come back, but you know, you have to take your hats off to, you know, guys like Cam Ward. I mean, he's playing outstanding. He's having an outstanding season. And yeah, guys don't think about the Heisman right now. All they think about is playing and playing well. All that stuff is going to take care of itself. That's just for pundits to talk about. You go out there and you play well. I mean, winning a national championship, I think, would probably be more important than winning the Heisman. Although, you know, the Heisman is a nice piece of hardware to take home with you. It's not bad to take home with you as well as winning the national championship. But right now, he's just focused on playing as well as he possibly can and helping his team win as many games as possible. And obviously, that was a step in the right direction to be able to come back from that type of deficit in a very hostile environment in 3 different time zones. That was a very impressive win by Miami. I really thought they lost that game when I went to sleep.
Well, Jay obviously has a good take. They were down big. Cal gave it away. They pretty much did give it away. Fact of the matter is, you gave it away to a really good quarterback, like Jay mentioned, was a legitimate NFL starter as a rookie. So, Candy, you and I watched it, and I guess we were pretty surprised, to say the least.
So the Hurricanes were down 25 with, I believe it was like 3 minutes and 8 seconds left in the third quarter. And they went on to score 21 points in the fourth quarter to win 39-38. The one thing I will say about the Hurricanes, in both this game and the previous game, there were what I would say has been questionable calls by the refs. Not saying that they were wrong calls, but questionable calls. Miami needs to not put themselves in that kind of a situation where they've got to do that. But let's face it. I mean, Cam Ward, 35 for 50 out of 53 for 437 yards passing. They had 30 first downs to Cal's 13. So the score was very lopsided going into like the fourth quarter. But again, 30 first downs to Cal's 13. On third down, they were 7 for 16, whereas Miami's defense held Cal to 2 for 10. Fourth down efficiency, 3 for 4 for Miami. Cal was 1 of 2. Total yards, Miami 575 to Cal's 370. Just by the time of possession, Miami had it 37 minutes and 35 seconds to Cal's 22-25. So just those stats you would think Miami would have beaten them by a big margin. They only beat them by 1. Miami's playing well, but I think there's another level they can take it to, and I don't think they're there quite yet. I look forward to seeing it, though.
Oh, don't worry. We got to get Coach Bono on here sooner or later. I can't wait till they play Florida State. I'm going to grow the coach with that one. But the reality is the Miami Hurricanes have been living dangerously anyways the last 2 weeks, but they keep moving up in the polls. So that's what they have to do. The fact that they're playing in the ACC, so they're playing their conference schedule, and they ended up winning. Don't sell Virginia Tech short, because they ended up winning by a wide margin with their next opponent. And Cal, you know what? They were laughing at the bank with that sellout that they had there. It was loud over at Cal. I've been to that campus before, drove by the stadium. I'm going to tell you something. Cal looked pretty good against Miami. So, Miami's been living dangerously a little bit. The fact is, I'm glad they have a bye week so that they can get some of their other players. Bye weeks are important in this day and age, if for no other reason, to get some players healthy. All right, final topic of the night. And I know that Jay has been waiting for it. In fact, so is Vanderbilt. Okay, the Vanderbilt defeated a top 5 ranked team for the first time in their program history. And here's the thing: 40-35, and Music City was in a party mood. They ended up hauling those goalposts into Broadway, and I think they ended up in the river. I think they got fined $100,000 for doing it. So, Bo, whether you go ahead and watch college football, I'm making sure you get a lot of facts here to make it look like you watch college football. So don't worry about it, Val. I have you cut. You always cover me. I'm doing the same thing. But the amazing part about this whole thing is this: Vanderbilt is auctioning items from the win at $1,000 for a 4 or 8 inch piece of goalpost. Get that? 4 to 8. I mean, that's a lot of goalposts there. And if that isn't good enough, if you want a personalized game helmet, it's only going to run you about $7,000. And let's keep it going. Yeah, $7,000 for a personalized game helmet. I don't know where you're going to put it. We don't have basements in Florida, so you won't put it there at least. We really don't. I have to admit, I do miss my basements up north. You have $1,000 for an individual pylon, and if that isn't good enough, $2,600 plus for personalized game ball. My goodness, I didn't even realize game balls around $2,600. Seriously, really? There you go. A couple more
Crazy
people out there. Yeah, I mean, those numbers are pretty wild. So the man that doesn't know much about college football probably does know a little bit about math, right, Bo? What do you think of the fact that Vanderbilt beat Alabama for the first time in their history, and Nashville was drinking the Kool-Aid? And I'm not talking about the non-alcoholic stuff. I'm talking about the alcoholic. There might be some alcoholic, non-alcoholic, but
no, like incredibly impressive. And it's not that I don't watch college football. I just happened to be working on Saturday and didn't get to watch it.
Well, no, I'm not saying that you don't watch it because you're a football. You don't get football talk with Bo without watching it all. The fact of the matter is, if it was NFL football talk with Bo, then we know you'd be limited. And I understand that. That's why I even tag you on Twitter, because at least I want to make sure you get as much as you can, whether you use it, retweet it. I really don't frankly care. But man, this is an awful lot of stuff, Bo. I mean, seriously, when you think about it, they're auctioning items. The first time they've ever beaten a team in the top five. And here's a little trivia question. The Tennessee Titans actually used to play at Vanderbilt Stadium before they ended up in their new gig, and they're going to be getting another new gig. So, Bo, I guess my question to you, and I want everybody on the panel to take note of the question because you're going to all answer it as well, is what are your thoughts about the monumental nature of Vanderbilt's win over Alabama and, of course, the math equation with all the dollar figures attached to it? We'll start off with you this time, Bo.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously that's an amazing accomplishment for the school, right? And some of it, you have to wonder if Alabama was overlooking them, looking
Right.
past this game. But yeah, I mean, for the school, that's fantastic. Like, no matter what they do the rest of the way, this team gets to be like, yeah, we did that. And then from the auctioning stuff off, yeah, I mean, cash in while you can, because it's going to be a really hot item today, less so as time goes on. So yeah, cash in while you can.
Okay, Jay, to answer your question, what should Alabama be ranked? What they are, and that's number 7 right now. We'll see whether they recover from it. And yes, Steve, you're right. 11 ranked teams lost as well. But this is obviously the big daddy of them all. All right, Mel, what do you think about what transpired over in Nashville?
Yeah, I was kind of surprised. First, that was the game. They've been playing this game since 1903, and in the beginning, Vanderbilt was getting busy with Alabama. Alabama is 63-19 and 4 ties against Vandy. But this is the first time that Vandy's won in the last 40 years since 1984. So I was watching this game, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, Alabama's down. I wasn't even thinking about watching Alabama. I just knew they were going to just boat race Vanderbilt. And then I turned on the game, and that offense they hide the weenie. It's very, very difficult. It's like a triple option, but they do it from the shotgun. And very, very deceptive. And your eyes will lie to you every single time. The cameraman couldn't find out where the ball was going. The announcers had no idea where the ball was going. And, of course, Alabama's defense had no idea who had the football. And that was the biggest problem. I mean, the time of possession, Vanderbilt had the ball for so much time. It was unbelievable. And they were converting on 3rd and long all the time. The 3rd down conversion rate was just was outstanding. They had a little quarterback who was like 5'10", maybe 5'11", little pudgy guy, wasn't very athletic looking, but was killing him. Idolized Johnny Manziel, and he wore number 2 just like Manziel, and he was out there dealing like Manziel. That offense they had, to hide the weenie, you do that in Little League football. We did that, coaching my nephew, and that offense was unbelievable. You had to be really sound defensively to play against that defense. And what happened is they were breaking a lot of arm tackles because guys were kind of guessing, trying to figure out where the ball was. And you get those guys coming downhill and they're just running through arm tackles. So I was very, very impressed with Vanderbilt's offense. Obviously, it made me upset because I'm watching at the same time I'm watching UCLA get boat raced by Penn State, and they have no offense whatsoever. No creativity on offense. Just nothing. So I'm sick to my stomach. I'm like, well, I know it's just as hard to get into Vanderbilt or harder to get into Vanderbilt as it is UCLA. Who is this offensive coordinator? We need to get this guy because, boy, that offense was something to watch and had Alabama on their heels all day long because they couldn't get off the field. Just unbelievable. Couldn't get off the field. I couldn't believe it. And I don't know why I felt sick to my stomach because Alabama was losing, because I don't have a dog in the fight. But what it does do is it makes college football a lot more interesting, because you don't really have that dominant team other than maybe Texas and Ohio State. Ohio State hasn't really played anybody. We'll find out a little bit more about Texas as they get deeper into the SEC season this year. But anybody can win it. So for fans, it's great because anybody really has an opportunity to win to get in the final 12 and to win the national championship. It's not like this one dominant team. We've already seen Georgia go down by an Alabama that really looked unbeatable, and then all of a sudden Alabama runs into Vanderbilt, who got beat by Georgia State their very first game. I mean, how does that happen? How do you beat Alabama and lose to Georgia State? It just doesn't make any sense. So the college football season is wide open as far as who can win the national championship, and I think it's great for college football.
Yeah, is it great for college football that Vanderbilt's cleaning up on all this memorabilia?
Yeah. I mean, it's not like they need the money. They got the Vanderbilt money, but I mean, it doesn't hurt. I'm sure alumni would love to have a piece of that goalpost. I mean, this is probably a once in a lifetime type of deal, because I'm sure next year when this game comes around, those guys that are still there at Alabama, they're going to remember it, and I'm sure they're going to want to. They're going to want a good piece of Vandy next year. They can't wait. I mean, I feel sorry for their opponent next week, because I know they're getting coached hard right now, and they're going to come out and play next week.
Yeah, Kalen DeBoer is eating a little crow. Let me go back to Jay a little bit. Does this hurt their QB chance at the Heisman? I would say no, and I'm only going to answer this one on my own, because the fact of the matter is a Heisman Trophy is based on a season's full of work. Obviously, he had good numbers. The fact is that Vanderbilt scoring more points than Alabama. I'm not going to blame it to win the quarterback.
Yeah, I don't think it hurt.
I don't think it does.
I don't think
but
it hurt.
the Heisman Trophy is based on the body of work, and don't forget they scored 35 points. I thought Alabama's speed talent was going to smother that offensive style. Well, you thought, but Vanderbilt came up with the win, and they're happy campers in Nashville. All right, Jeremy.
Well, how about that? It looked like the Vanderbilt Colts stole that play out of Little Giants, the emancipation of Puerto Rico. Because 100% they hid the ball well. Nobody knew who had the ball. Nobody knew who was going to be running it. They ran through every arm tackle like they were imitating Marshawn Lynch or Mel Farr Jr. back in the day. It was pretty to see for that side. But if you were one of the people that like the Blue Bloods, the ones that always win, you were probably crying into your rally towel.
Okay. All right. Well, Bo had to take off, but we appreciate his participation tonight, obviously. So, Candy, you have the last word on this.
So, kudos to Vanderbilt, because the little engine that could, those little small teams that could, it's a monumental program win for them to beat somebody like Alabama, to say that. So now when you're recruiting for next year, you can say you knocked off Alabama, and that bodes well. To Mel's point, like, Vanderbilt held the ball for 42 minutes and 8 seconds compared to Alabama's 17 minutes and 52 seconds. That is sheer domination right there. Alabama had a fumble. Alabama threw an interception. Alabama had 6 penalties for 57 yards. Did they overlook Vanderbilt? I would say yes, but their next opponent is South Carolina too. So it's not like they were like, oh, I've got such a big opponent coming up after this one, we're going to look out. I think sometimes when you go to some of these big program schools, you feel that you are a little at a higher level, and so maybe you don't need to practice as hard, and maybe you don't need to, whereas the lesser known schools are going into play, and lots of times they get their butts kicked, let's face it. But they work hard, and they play every down, and they play all 4 quarters, and that's how they're coached. So kudos to their coach. Kudos to the play calling that they ran, and kudos to both sides of the ball, because obviously to dominate Alabama's offense like they did, their defense had to show up. Do I think this hurts in the Heisman Trophy? It's not going to take him out of the race, but I do think it definitely has to be considered when you're looking at the whole body of work. He only threw 1 touchdown and he had 1 interception. So I think you do have to, because people were saying Cam Ward and people are saying, well, he doesn't deserve it either. I think you have to look at the whole body of all of their work when you're thinking of the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah, that guy from Boise State, if he gets 3,000 yards, he's going to win it.
Mm-hmm.
He should win it.
Exactly.
Well, we'll see how it plays out, but I think you still have to look at the whole body of work anyways, for the whole season, and I wouldn't rule it out by any stretch. I just want to get some.
Don't forget the running back.
Well, I didn't forget nobody. I'll let you guys remind me every week. That's okay. I do want, since Bo had to leave, I'm sure he had another commitment. I do want to mention the way to contact Bo is if you go to Twitter, you can follow him at Football Talk Bo, and you'll be able to find him on Twitter there as well. So he's a great person that we have on the show week in, week out, and we're really happy that Bo's part of our team. And he also has a show with Coach Bono every Wednesday at 4:00 on his YouTube channel. So look him up. Does a great job. And the guy's popular. They all want him, and we're just glad we get him every Tuesday night. As far as I reiterated really quickly, okay, and yeah, Jay, you're right. Running backs don't get a whole lot of love anymore. They don't. Once upon a time they did. They don't anymore. It's sad. I just still don't like the fact that this trophy is really a quarterback trophy when they have their own quarterback honor anyhow. So now they get to be honored twice. And I've always thought, me personally, when Charles Woodson won it, that's what it really meant more to me, is that you had an opportunity. And Desmond Howard, I think, of Michigan, won it as well as a wide receiver. I would like to get rid of the quarterback stigma on this trophy. Unfortunately, it's connected to it. And I have a running back on my show, so I doubt he's going to disagree with me at all that running backs should get a bit more love. Although, Reggie Bush did, and at least he got it back. But we'll deal with that another night. So, but as far as the monumental win for Vanderbilt, more power to them. It took 40 years to beat one of these teams, and I'm glad they did it, but I think they're going to be marked next year. Any closing thoughts real quickly? We'll go around the horn. Okay, Jeremy, go ahead. Closing thoughts.
So let's talk about these Heisman winning QBs in the NFL. Joe Burrow gets to a Super Bowl and loses and hasn't had a healthy season or a great season since. Then you got Trevor Lawrence, who's still getting paid for his national championship in his first year. And
Trevor Lawrence never won the Heisman, did he?
No, but I'm just saying there's all these hyped up guys that are quarterbacks that have been like first overall. I'm going first overall.
You can say Bryce Young. That could be your next one.
That was going to be the next one, was Bryce Young. And then you get to Caleb Williams.
What about Johnny Football?
Johnny Football was before.
Yeah,
but I'm talking about right now. I'm just saying right now, we had 2 Heisman winners in the same draft. One win at 1 in Caleb Williams, one win at 2 at Jaden Daniels. And if you put them apples to oranges right next to each other, Jaden Daniels looks like the real deal, and Caleb Williams is to be determined. But I think a lot of that has to do with his O-line.
Yeah, but you know what? I appreciate everything you're coming from there. And if I want to get into a conversation about the best number 1 picks, I'll do that. And I can promise you I will invite you on that show. Truth of the matter is, I think the best number 1 overall pick in recent time to me is Troy Aikman. Okay. He's the best number 1 pick because he's got the hardware to show for it. You can talk about the talent around him. I don't care. That's not the point. But I'm talking about Heisman Trophy winners, number 1 picks that won it all. If I want to sit here and go back and give everybody a history lesson, for those that follow it this far back, Jim Plunkett won a couple titles, but did not do it with New England. He did it with the Raiders. But the fact of the matter is, when we talk about number 1 picks, the reality is they're supposed to get paid a lot of money, and how many of them turn out to be bust, that's another story. So I can appreciate everything you're coming from, Jeremy. I really do. I respect your knowledge and history of the game, but go ahead.
I was just talking about people in the now, right now, that are playing.
Right.
I wasn't talking about the past.
No, I know you
That-
weren't, but
that
I'm
was it.
trying to give you examples of guys in the past now because obviously I have the gray hair to show for it. So does Mel, and we lived it. Okay. But I realize to me, a lot of these quarterbacks now, okay, I just don't. I think, like Jay said, I think that Caleb Williams, I'm not sold on him yet either. I'm really not. But that'll be for another day and another time because I've got a segment on quarterbacks that we're going to talk about recently. But I think that today's show was really dominated by the New York Jets, and for good reason, because this was a important topic. And I don't like to get away from college football. And I thought the two best stories were what we are. I'm not questioning what I put together, but I can appreciate where you're coming from. I do. And I just want you to understand that.
I wish I could have finished my parting shot because I was giving an example.
Well, I said final thoughts, not parting shot.
Oh,
But go ahead, finish it.
that's okay.
No, go ahead. And don't.
I've lost it now. I'm just saying.
All right, well, that's fine. Well, if you get it back, you can bring it up. All right, some final thoughts, Mel.
Yeah, I just want to say, send out my condolences to Greg Landry's family. You know, that was my dad's quarterback when he played with the Lions, and that was, hit a different way. Obviously, when you see somebody like that passed away, but yeah, that was my dad's quarterback. So just send my condolences out to all his family and friends, his loved ones and friends.
Okay, well done. Yeah, I remember Greg Landry as well. Turned out to be a pretty good coach after his playing days for sure. Okay, Candy, some final thoughts, and we'll give Jeremy hopefully a chance to recover his, and I'll go ahead and provide mine at the very end.
My final thought was only how you started the show in saying, be safe, everybody, with the hurricane out there. I can tell you Walt Disney World Resort's Magic Kingdom in Orlando, Florida, has closed for weather and 2 national emergencies only 11 times in its 53-year history. It is closed. It is closing early tomorrow. So yes, take the storm seriously and please be careful.
You know what? I'll second that. And I'll second it in another sense because I used to live in the Tampa area. I have a lot of Tampa blood in me. If you see me wearing a USF Bulls shirt tomorrow night, you'll know that my heart is in Tampa. My brother Lonnie likes to call it my second hometown. I actually experienced a severe hurricane there many years ago in college called Hurricane Elena. And she did some major damage in Pinellas County and made Indian Rocks Beach look like Indian Rocks Beach when I had to pick up my grandmother and my Aunt Judy. I couldn't believe the damage that was done. All right, Jeremy, did it come back to you? So big deal. Okay. I'm sure that you can bring it up when you get another opportunity to come on the show. So with that said, Candy, take it home.
The South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book last December called Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by your host, Scott Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. It is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Apple, and Google Books. There is a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where you can purchase this book. You can purchase merchandise from our merchandise store, or you can read Scott's writings and Jeremy's writings and my pictures. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcast. If you have ideas for us, you can always email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you want to sponsor a show or advertise on one of our shows, call Scott 954-304-4941. If you missed any of it, you can either hit rewind or it's been scrolling on the bottom of the show. And we're at Tribune South for Twitter or X. I think that's pretty much it, Scott.
Okay, Jeremy, let everybody know how they get a hold of you.
You can find me right here on the South Florida Tribune anytime Scott needs me. Also on the Motor City Madmouth Show and on Fire Up. You can also find me, as Andy mentioned, on the website with my writings under the Motor City Tribune heading. You can also find me on my channel, Kneecap Biting with the Motor City Lions. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. I'm everywhere.
Well done. Go ahead, Mel.
Yeah, you can find me on all the social media at Melfar Jr. You can follow what we have going on here in Michigan for the youth at melfarsuperstarfoundation.org.
Well done. I'm looking forward to hopefully get to your event next year as well in August. Unfortunately, I couldn't get there last year because I was under the weather, but I definitely am looking forward to getting back there again for sure. All right, well, you know what? This does conclude this edition of Inside the Pigskin. Great job by everybody involved. Bo did a great job. Jeremy, as always, you're always steady. You're always able to come up with some timely information. Mel, I know I think of you. Okay, you're like a brother to me, and the fact that we've been together as long. What can I say, Candy? You're always steady and you're like a rock. So that concludes this edition. We'll look forward to doing it again next week. Hopefully, we'll have Steve Ballesteri and Coach Bono on. It's more important to make sure that these individuals are safe from Hurricane Milton. So what we do is just try to make sure that we can come up and have the top big topics that we need to do so that we don't lose a beat during this football season. As we hope we accomplish our objective tonight. So on behalf of Bo Crouch, Candy Ebling, Jeremy Bullrich, and Mel Farr Jr., my name is Scott Morgan, around the Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us. We'll hope everybody stays safe and have a great week. See you next Tuesday night. Same station, same channel. Good night, everybody.